Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. Today it is Poetry Thursday, so I wanted to talk about some poetry of interest. And today's poem is all about a moment of peace between bouts of violence. I am referring to Calm Day by Ghassan Zaqtan. For those who don't know, Ghassan Zaqtan is a Palestinian-American writer who's been getting his work published since the 1980s, writing poetry as well as novels and short stories and things like that. This is the first time I've encountered his work, but his sort of blunt nature, forward nature in his poetry kind of grabbed my eye. And I find myself talking about yet another Palestinian poet who is capturing the feeling of being under occupation and being brutalized so vividly that it's easy to picture myself in a similar situation, even though I will likely never experience the kind of terror that the average Palestinian does. And once again, I'm telling you, free Palestine, and call for a ceasefire to make sure that, Palestinians don't have to deal with constant death. The ceasefire should have happened, eons ago, but, the people, the powers that be, Biden and whatnot, seem fit to just allow it to happen. But without further ado, let's talk about this poem. I will read it, do a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. Calm day. No dead on the streets today is a calm day. Traffic is normal. There's ample room for the procession of yesterday's dead. Room to add a dream, an idea, a little boy. An extra push for the beloved boat. A nom de guerre for the cell. A rose for a new love. A hand to a comrade. Some room to stay alive for some time, enough time to shake your hands and reach the sun. Today is a calm day, a pedestrian day in Beirut, dancing in the streets, obstructing buses and not buying newspapers. The newspapers already went out to offices, and the dead are resting on the pavement of martyrs at the outskirts of Sabra. A calm day, our neighbor will step out in her nightgown to hang some sleepiness around us, some sluggish waking. She's too lethargic to gather letters into words. Where is life on this vast sauntering morning? We won't leave out of the whiteness of her gown. A reason will come to carry us down to the streets dead in her good morning. So that was Calm Day by Ghassan Zaqtan. In terms of analysis, there is a fair bit to talk about with this poem. In terms of narrative, I think it's pretty clear to gather what Ghassan is saying here. He's saying, no dead in the streets today is a calm day. This seems to be a moment of peace between bouts of violence, bombings or just shootings of some sort at the hands of the Israel Defense Force or some other part of their military. And so this has provided an opportunity for them to celebrate the dead from yesterday, to bury them actually. And they can just gather, have fun, hang around, and even rest. They don't have to worry about too much. What's interesting is the end of the poem. They say, a calm day, our neighbor will step out in her nightgown to hang some sleepiness around us, some sluggish waking. She's too lethargic to gather letters into words. And then in the next verse, where is life on this vast sauntering morning? We won't leave out of the whiteness of her gown. A reason will come to carry us down to the streets dead in her good morning. And I don't really understand what that meant. Obviously, they're talking about their neighbor, but I don't think they're talking about a physical neighbor, like the person next door to you. I think they're talking about their country neighbor. Which in this case would be Israel. Israel is putting sleepiness around them. It's not doing anything, so it's making everyone lethargic. rather than running around trying to survive various bombings. And then the last three lines, I'm struggling really to figure out what that means. Out of the whiteness of her gown, a reason will come to carry us down to the streets, dead in her good morning. And maybe eventually, like, what I think what the narrator is saying is that eventually, like, the neighbor Israel will provide a reason, or will have a reason to attack, come up with a reason to attack, and that'll leave you, like, to go down the streets dead, be carried in a procession, and you'll be dead in your good morning. So it won't be like a as good. It's kind of an ironic statement. At least that's my interpretation of it. I think there's a lot of different ways that you could interpret that. Ghassan's not really direct there. But another interesting thing about this poem is, even though it's supposed to be peaceful, like, you're still surrounded by the horrors of what's going on. They say, like, no dead on the streets today is a calm day. Like, that's a calm day to you. Like your life is so filled with death and whatnot that, like, to be like that only when it's gone are you having a calm day. Like, it's a sign of my privilege that I would never have so much death in the streets around me. Is what I'm saying. That this is their life. They're just kind of immune, or not immured is the word. And I wouldn't even say that, because the death is clearly still affecting them. Desensitized maybe to all the violence that they're experiencing, that it has to be just a regular thing for them. And then it's like, room to add a dream, an idea, a little boy, an extra push for the beloved boat, an âme de guerre for the cell, a rose for a new love. So opportunity in this time to celebrate, even though normally you'd be fearing. And some room to stay alive for some time, enough time to shake your hands and reach the sun. And I find that first line, like, some room to stay alive for some time. Like, it's not guaranteed that you'll stay alive for an extended period of time, like a normal amount of time that you would live for, like, 50 or 60 years. It's just some time. Like, a bomb might kill you in a couple weeks. Who is to say? You might be unlucky in that way. So what Ghassan Zaqtan is painting here is a picture of a very rough life in this country of theirs, in Palestine and Lebanon, Beirut, where they're constantly surrounded by death, and they have these momentary instances where there's a lack of death, but there's still memories of that death surrounding them, which is terrifying. And there's always that threat of the neighbor of Israel just immediately beginning firing again, immediately beginning bombing, and sending you back into that dread, that terror of wondering if you're going to survive, or just experiencing like a nonstop, cavalcade or nonstop cavalry of death. It's really sad, and it'd be quite infuriating to live in that. And so that was Calm Day by Ghassan Zaqtan, a pretty solid poem. One that really struck me for how, like, casual he is talking about death. It's not simply something that happens once in a while. It's pretty frequent because of the constant attacks by Israel, the constant attacks by other forces as well in this country. So very, very interesting, very necessary poem, I think, to read, to understand, the mindset of living in these times, especially in the Middle East. If you have any thoughts about this poem or something you want to say about my review here, let me know in the comments below. Would love to hear from you. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this poet or this poem if they don't know about it. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and anti-war travels. Free Palestine as per usual.